What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of OneMindSyndicate, and today we're back to talk about Warhammer 40k. In this excerpt, we are going to be reading from The Lion, Son of the Forest, and we have an interesting encounter between his fallen. So if you're unaware, when the Lion, aka Lionel Johnson, returned to the overall fold of the 40k universe, he comes with his fallen. These are who we believed were traitors or Chaos Space Marines from the Dark Angels, but it turns out that they never fell to Chaos. They were just renegades. And now that the Lion is kind of basically gathering up his fallen, we actually see them go toe-to-toe with the Chaos Space Marine, and it's not pretty. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this lore. Zabriel, roared a voice, but that was not one of my brothers coming to my aid. I stumbled to my feet to see the massive form of Markog bearing down on me, his enormous pale-bladed axe clutched in both hands. I owe you a strike, the commander of the Dolores Guard bellowed, almost jovially. Boars flew at him from his left, his power fist drawn back to lay the traitor out, but Markog was too quick. The haft of his axe lashed out and caught Boars on his helmet's faceplate, spinning him to the ground, and by the time my brother had regained his feet, one of Markog's warriors had fallen on him from behind with a power knife, and Boars was fully occupied with trying to save his own life. I dropped my empty bolt pistol and drew my spear, hoping to at least injure him before he closed with me. But the giant size bellied his speed, and the butt of that damned axe knocked the weapon from my hand before I could even fire. I swung my chainsword, but Markog was wearing his helmet this time, and in truth, I do not know what I hoped to achieve, given that the last time I decapitated him, he simply picked his head back up. The teeth threw up sparks as they grated against his armor, but in a moment, he brought the haft of his axe down on my arm with such force that I felt both ceramite and the bone snap, and the chainsword dropped from my grasp. His next blow was a punch that hammered into the cracked armor over my ribs, and even my enhanced pain threshold was momentarily overloaded. I stumbled backwards and fell, and he raised his axe high. I said, "I owe you a strike." He swung. The pale-bladed axe descended like death, too fast for me to roll clumsily aside from it. The edge stopped a mere finger's breadth from my helmet seal, but this was not an act of mercy or mockery on the behalf of my enemy. Instead, his weapon was thrown up and back again by the blade of Tyrannic Greatsword, which had intercepted the swing just below the axe head. "I owe him a strike," Markog roared at my savior. "This is a matter of honor." "You think we conquer the galaxy with honor? You children are all the same," Galad snorted and attacked. The Cenobite's cataphractic armor made him a match for Markog in size, and apparently in strength as well. Their weapons clashed together, but the commander of the Dolores Guard was unable to throw Galad away from him, despite his straining. Instead, each warrior took a backward step, then swung again. Markog was blisteringly quick, and his axe spun through the air faster than should have been possible. But Galad was his equal, calmly parrying and deflecting as though he knew what strikes were coming even before Markog did. Destroyers fought and bled in the crucible of brutal close-in killing, with no quarter asked or given. So I was no stranger to the cut and thrust of combat. Seeing Galad at work, however, took me back to when I was a raw recruit, watching my instructors handle their weapons with what seemed like the time to be godlike speed and skill. But I had no time to gape. I lunged for my dropped pistol and raised it. I opened fire. The bolts detonated on Markog's leg, arm, and pauldron, and although his armor repaired the damages within moments of it occurring, the impacts knocked him off balance and caused his next strike to miss its mark completely and bite deep into the floor. "Cowards," Markog roared, just deflecting Galad's next blow. "Fight me." He caught off as Lanciel appeared on his right and drove his power sword through Markog's armor, right through his ribcage. The giant stiffened in what could have well been an agony, but what I suspected of his allegiances, probably ecstasy. But Galad was in no mood to leave him to experience this uninterrupted. The tyrannic greatsword lashed out again, and Markog's left arm was cut clean from his body. His pauldron severed in two by the disrupting power field and razor-sharp edge of the ancient weapon. Lanciel withdrew his own sword and stepped back from Markog's clumsy, unbalanced counterstrike. The giant was roaring wordlessly now, his pain and rage too overwhelming for anything else. I rose to my feet and fired another bolt, shattering his helmet just as Galad swung again and took his right arm off as well. That changed things. The haft of the axe was still clutched in his hand, but Markog's unnatural resilience vanished now that hand was no longer attached to his body. He staggered, and blood began to drip thickly from his shoulders. It started to clot almost immediately, since he was still a space marine, with our enhanced biology and healing abilities. But it appeared as though the weapon itself, which granted him the ability to survive his own decapitation, rather than any ability of his own. "No," he bellowed thickly, and he took a step towards Galad. Galad was clearly taking no chances. He crouched and swung his blade horizontally and severed both legs with one blow. Markog clattered to the floor with a howl. Galad rose his back to his full height, reversed his grip on his sword, and plunged it into Markog's chest. I walked over to Markog and stamped on his helmet. It shattered and fell away to reveal his face, twisted in pain and hatred. He reached up towards me with his unnaturally long tongue, then cackled at me. "I will taste your flesh yet, twice cursed traitor, and you will." I emptied the rest of the pistol's clip into his head without waiting for him to finish, until I had blown a hole in the floor beneath, and the legs of my armor were speckled with fine particles of his skin, bone, and brain. Perhaps I should have been more careful about allowing the tainted flesh to touch my armor, but I was a destroyer, and our enemy's annihilation always took priority over our own safety. And with that being said, that is the end of this pretty interesting excerpt. So here we see Markog, which is a Chaos devotee who already had been decapitated once before, but just like the Arthurian tale, I believe it was from the Green Knight, the Green Knight is decapitated, and then he says he's gonna basically deliver the same type of wound to his enemy, and that's what we're seeing here. Markog's decapitation and his ability to basically come out unscathed is now going to haunt our dark angels here, or the fallen I should say, and it takes a lot to kill him. He's literally cut limb from limb to the point where he's just a stump, and even then he's still trying to go for the kill. So here you can see just how powerful the forces of chaos can be, but at the same time it was probably the demon axe that was doing all this for him. So with that being said, guys, let me know if there's any other interesting demon weapons that you want us to cover. These things are really interesting to read about, especially the ones from Slaanesh. But that's all I have for today, guys. Again, like, comment, and subscribe for more things Warhammer 40k. Hit us up on our other channel, For the Greater Wall, where we answer your questions. And yeah, that's all I got. As always, this has been the Sound Alchemist, part of OneMindSyndicate, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.